afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Torah Study with Rabbi P. I'm Rabbi P, and here we are in Long Beach, California, with a bunch of my good friends. Say hello, everybody. Hello. What an enthusiastic crowd. I wish I had a good class today, but, well, we'll see. All right, here we go. So, last week we talked about the 10 commandments, not the 10 suggestions, right? Those were the commandments we were supposed to follow and keep, and I'm sure Jay's been doing that since he got the Aliyah at the Shul for the 10 commandments. So then God says to Moses, I want to tell you something, this is only the beginning. 10 is a good starter. That's like, when you go to a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, that's the smorgasbord. Now we're going to get into the real meat and potatoes of it. Another 603 more to go. So Moses lays it out, and this week, this portion that we read this past Shabbos is called Mishpatim. This is where God says to him, I want you to lay out all the rules and regulations like it's a prepared table. I'm going to tell you a law, and this is how it went. I'm going to call you, and I'm going to give you a rule. You're then going to call Aaron, and you're going to tell it to Aaron. Then Aaron is going to stand on your right side. You'll call Aaron's sons, say it again. They stand on your left side. You'll call the 70 elders, you say it again, and they stand behind you, and then all the Jews could come, and you tell them again. So each rule, each law, each mitzvah was transmitted to us by Moses over a number of different times. I've mentioned a few times already that the 613 break up into three parts. One is called the chukim, super rational laws. The red heifer, for example, that purifies us. The laws of purity and impurity. The laws of wearing shatnez, not wearing wool and linen together in a garment. Kalayim, not growing a vineyard next to a wheat field, in close proximity. All of these are super rational laws, and we just, because God said to do it, we do it. Including kosher. That falls into the same category. Because I don't care how smart you are, and I don't care how... You will never be able to explain rationally why a cow is kosher and a horse is not kosher. I don't care. It has split hooves, chews its cuds, prays to God, hangs out. I don't care where and it doesn't matter. This is what God said. Kosher, not kosher. Kosher, not kosher. Okay. Then set number 2 is called testimonies. These are not super rational, but also not rational in a way. For example, like eating matzah on Passover. We do this because it's historically, we had, a whole episode of Jews leaving Egypt and they ate the matzah. So we do that. Every culture has these, because they're unique to a specific culture. So we have eating the matzah, keeping the holidays, keeping Shabbat, circumcision, prayer, tefillin. All of these fall into the category of what we call testimonies. Okay? The third one is called mishpatim, which we are going to be dealing with today. And those are what we call the building blocks of society. Every society needs these. These are rules that make sense. They're rational. They're logical. You want to live and let live. You want to be able to prosper. You're going to have these rules. One of them, of course, is don't murder. Okay? Don't murder. Don't steal. Don't kidnap. Be honest. All of these were not invented by Judaism. They were around before Moses came around. There were codes before him, but they became part of the Jewish tradition. And we do these laws because God says so. Not because I'm a nice guy and I don't want to murder you. I do want to murder you. But because God said, do not murder these people. They're nice people. I'm not going to murder you. Okay? I don't steal. Not because I think it's wrong, but because God says so. Now, I may also think that it's wrong, and I should think that it's wrong, but that's the reason why we do these things, because God commanded us, and that's where I want to concentrate today. Now, in every society, no matter the best and the finest and the greatest, there's going to be times when we do damages, when we damage each other, especially in the days of in the time when you had animals walking freely in the streets. So if my ox came and your cow was walking and my ox gored your cow, there was damage to your cow, and I'm now responsible to pay for this. There's an expression, an old-time expression, in Latin called lex talionis. Lex talionis is a method of paying for damages called measure for measure. Okay? So how do we measure someone's damages? We say lex talionis, measure for measure. Now, that can be interpreted a number of different ways. You can take that literally, meaning, like, the famous expression in the Torah, eye for an eye. What does that mean, an eye for an eye? You could take that literally, that if I somehow in a fight punch out your eye, the punishment coming to me is they punch out my eye. Okay? And that's the way it used to be before Judaism came around. And not in all societies, but in certain societies, they took lex talionis to the extreme measure of literally measure for measure. So think about this, that if someone was a contractor and built a house, and the house all of a sudden was not built properly and collapsed and killed the owner's son, what happened? What was lex talionis? You take the contractor's son and kill him. Because you kill the son has to be killed. You kill the daughter, a daughter has to be killed. And that's the way some societies literally lived, basically measure for measure in the most extreme way. Judaism came along and said, no. The Torah never meant to say measure for measure. There are punishments. Let's say for murder, there is capital punishment. God says if you murder somebody, your life will be taken, and that's fine. And there's others, capital offenses, idolatry, others, that you forfeit your life. But for damages, for example, if you did not do it with intent, no, you do not forfeit your life. The lex talionis, means measure for measure, but it means mostly monetary. And the reason given in the Talmud, for those that are not coming to the Tuesday night decoding the Talmud class, so I'll give you a little tidbit, but I'm not going to give you the whole class, just a little bit of the class, is why do we say measure for measure monetarily? Is because it's impossible to replay and repay exactly the damage that was done. Like, for example, if I punch out someone's eye, there's more than just a loss of the eye. There's the pain, there's this, and we'll get to that in a moment, how much you have to pay and all of this. So I have to literally measure everything to punch out the other guy's eye. It's impossible. And it's an impossibility. So the rabbis learned from there that ayin tachas ayin, an eye for an eye, does not mean taking out someone else's eye. It means that you have to make monetary compensation to the other person when you damage them. So whether you hurt the person's property, whether you hurt the person's animals, whether you damage them, whatever the circumstances were, you have to make compensation, and the compensation is monetary. Okay. So let's get down. If you want to follow along, you don't have to, but if you want to follow along, we're just going to go to the text for a moment. And we're going to go to page, I don't know, whatever page you want. Here we go. Page 420. 420. Okay? He says like this. This is the law. And then we'll analyze it a little bit and then unpack it, so on. Okay? If men quarrel, which is already wrong, okay? Two men quarrel, and one strikes his fellow with a stone or with a fist, means they're having a fist fight and he hurts him, and the other person does not die, meaning that if there would have been intent to kill, then this is off, but the other person does not die, but falls into bed, he's injured and now he's recuperating. If he gets up and goes about under his own power, means that he recovers and he walks outside and now he's better, the one who struck him is absolved. He doesn't get the death penalty, because if God forbid the other guy dies and there was intent to kill him, has to meet all the criteria, but he's absolved from the death penalty. Only for his lost time he shall pay, and he shall provide for the healing. Okay? So here in the last two words, it's interesting, the last two words in the Hebrew is verapa yerape, and the doctor shall heal him. From here we learn something very interesting, that it is permitted to practice medicine in Judaism. Because you would think about this for a second, there's others that argue that, do we believe in God? Yes. Do we believe that God knows everything? Yes. Do we believe that God knows what's best for you? Yes. Now, if God knows what's best for you and someone punched you in the face and knocked out your eye, well, that's best for you. Okay? Now, why should you go to a doctor to heal yourself? That's what's coming to you. If it wasn't coming to you, then why would that happen to you if it wasn't coming to you? Or if or you got a cold, for example. Well, it meant that thousands of years ago, before God created the world, He had a plan. And He planned that on that day, Perelmuter should have a cold. Now, I should go to the doctor and should give me medicine? That's ruining the whole plan. If God wanted me to be healed, He wouldn't have given me the cold in the first place, right? So what should happen if we are people of faith? Nothing. Something happens to you. You get. You see right away. He's okay. I get it. Well, I'm on your side. Okay. So here. So you go through all of this, and there would be some people that would literally believe this. So the Torah has to tell us, Verapa Yerape. Yes, there's going to be illness, but I'm also putting into the world a medical encyclopedia, and doctors have a right to go heal. Means that Judaism, from that moment on, the number one position of honor and of dignity became a doctor. Okay, forget about prophet. Forget about being a prophet, about a rabbi, a Sanhedrin. Forget about all of those things. Verapa, Yerape. Since that day on, every mother dreamt when she heard Moses say this. Oi, alavai, my son should go to the desert school of medicine. Well, that's where they were, right? In the desert, and he should become a doctor. That's it, finished. Okay, so that's number one. So if we analyze this verse, okay, and we went through like each thing that the Talmud goes through, we will find that there are 5 separate types of restitution you have to make. We say over here, lost time and healing, but there's still more. Let's go through them. Number 1 is nezek, damages. Okay? So let's say, in your case, there was a fight, someone chopped off someone's arm. Okay, it's brutal, but let's think about that for a second. So first of all, there's damage, because now I don't get an arm, or the person doesn't have an arm, so he's a one-armed person. There's damages. Now, how do you, in the olden days, how would you estimate how much an arm is worth? Today they have it. If you go to your insurance company and if you lose a limb, an eye, a foot, or whatever, there's a number that they put down there. Okay? Unless you happen to be like a specialist. I mean, if you're a violinist and you're Yitzhak Perelman, his arms, I promise you, and his fingers are more than my fingers. Okay? My mouth is more than his mouth, by the way. So it evens out. It evens out. Okay? So how do you measure nezek? How do you measure damage? What kind of damage? Okay, so let's see, how are we going to do it? So in the olden days, we learned that there was an institution called slavery or indentured servitude. We'll call it better that way, where people sold themselves and you can buy them, and they work for you. Okay? So now this is how we're going to find out. What are you going to pay for a two-armed person? Let's say, okay, he's a 25-year-old two-armed person. He's worth $1,000. What if he's only got one arm? Well, he's definitely not worth $1,000. How much will you pay for him? $500. How much is an arm worth? Anybody still up? How much is an arm worth? There you go. Oh, such smart people here, huh? $500. Okay, so that's how they would estimate what was called, number 1 was called nezek. You damaged him for $500. Put it down on the list. $500. Okay. Tsar. Pain. You inflicted pain on the guy. It's not besides the damages that he's worth less now, but the man is writhing in pain. Okay, it hurts. Now, how are we going to estimate pain? How do you estimate pain? So you put out a call to the public. Who is willing? How much would you be willing to take if I chopped off your arm? $100? No. $200? No. $300? No. How about $400? Okay, $400, yeah. Okay, so we know that someone is willing to take $400 for the loss of an arm, which is different than the pain. It's different than the worth of the arm, so put that another $400. Okay, ripui. Okay, ripui means doctor bills, right? Rabbi. And you're talking about before there were HMOs. Those were the days when the doctors were still making money, right? So, you come there and the doctor comes there, he heals his hand, $300, put the $300. Okay? Sheves. Sheves meant that he was out of work. So now, there wasn't today like, had unions where they paid you. If you were out of work, no one paid you to go to work. So let's say you were an accountant and you couldn't do work for 2 months, and it was the crazy season like right now, February, March, before April 15th, you lost out on $2,000, you had to pay. Okay, $200. So now it's getting up already, right? For you have to pay for the tsar, for the pain, for the damage, for compensation for doctors' medical bills, and also for idleness, for idle work. And then there was a fifth one. Now you have no arm, so now you got to get either a prosthesis, or you got to walk around with a sling, or you got to walk around something. It's embarrassing. Now I'm embarrassed. So there was a thing called baishas. There was a thing called literally humiliation. You had to pay for humiliating the other person. Now, how do you estimate that? How do you estimate how much? Now, because it's very different by who does the humiliating and who gets humiliated. Okay? So they went out into the public and they said, okay, how much would you take for being? And then the rabbis came up with a number for humiliation. And they put down, okay, humiliation, loss of an arm, okay, fine, $100. $100. You added up a whole column of 5 numbers, and that's what the person had to pay. 500, 400, 300, 2,000, 100, he had to pay up. And if he didn't have cash, we could go into his house, start taking his things. If he had land, we can appropriate his land from him. He had to come up with this kind of compensation. Why? Lex tilionis. Measure for measure. Measure for measure. Now this was all if he just damaged him. If he killed him, then it's a different story. If he unintentionally killed him, there's another different story. There's another punishment for unintentional killing. You have to go to a city of refuge. But this was literally in damaging, and the same thing was true. The same thing was true. Now, this is an interesting part. Whether your animal damaged. So let's say I had an ox. Okay, Shul, my friend here, Shul, he has an apple orchard. And my ox, I don't feed him that much because I want him to learn how to live as little as possible. So now he's hungry and he's walking around looking for food. And he sees an apple orchard. So he goes into the apple orchard and he starts eating Shul's apples. Shul comes out, hey, Perelmuter, get your ox out of my garden. I come up to schlep my ox out of his garden. But by the time I schlep him out of this garden, not only did he eat half of his apples, but you know what? After an ox eats a good meal, what does he do? Don't say it. Okay, this is not 3rd grade. Okay, you can all giggle. Okay, he poops. Okay, as my grandchild would say, he poops, and he poops all over the rest of the apples. Okay, so now he ate the apples and he pooped over the apples. So now Shul drags me to court, and I have to pay full damages, except, and this is the Torah's genius. Except in one case. What is that one case? If my ox was walking down the street and it was just like minding its own business, and then it saw Dave's cow and it got excited because it saw Dave's cow and he gored it. He gored it. That means he went at it he freaked out and he gored Dave's cow. I only have to pay 50% of the damages. 50%. Why 50% of the damages? I mean, let's say his ox was worth $400 and I did him $200 worth of damage. I should pay him $200. No, the Torah says like this. In goring is very different. If I ate the things that an ox does naturally, eating, stomping, all of that stuff, you pay full damages. But goring means that the cow was out of sorts. And because it was out of sorts, the Torah doesn't put the full responsibility on you because you claim, what should I have done? The Dave's cow was winking at him, or making fun of him, or she had like a red thing, she went like this to him. I mean, she could have done a lot of things to excite him. And because she excited him, and I wasn't there, so I couldn't do anything about it. So the Torah says for the first 3 instances, meaning for the first 3 times that your ox does this, and gets excited, he's out of sorts, and he damages 50% of the damages, because we take into consideration that your ox was allowed to walk the street. There's no prohibition of your ox walking the street. Dave's cow also had a right, but because Dave's cow did something, or something lured that ox, the first after the fourth time, then you know that you have a goring ox. If your ox is a goring ox, then you have a more responsibility to keep it going. Okay? So here the Torah makes so much sense, because in a society where I have a right to be on the street and you have a right to be on the street, my articles have a right and your articles have a right to be on the street, then you have to take into consideration that I have to have a certain amount of diligence to guard my stuff. But if it goes out of that circumstance, then the Torah will allow for 3 times. More than 3 times, then it's your fault. That's your fault. Then you have to keep a special eye on your ox. Same thing is true, for example, if I go and I put stuff in the public domain. I decide, you know what, I'm moving, and I put something in a sidewalk in front of me. Now the sidewalk, who has a right to walk? Everybody. Who owns the sidewalk? Everybody. So if I put something there, a knife or a package, and someone trips over it, who's responsible? Me. I'm responsible. Okay? Full responsibility. Just like a fire. Even if I make a fire, it's the 4th of July, we invited everybody over for a barbecue, I light up my barbecue, everyone's having a good time, or even better, I forget the barbecue, I'm making a real fire with wood, that's a bonfire. All of a sudden a strong wind comes and blows the sparks from my fire into Jack's property. I say, what do you want from me? They go to the one who made the wind. I didn't make the wind. The wind came by itself. It's not my fault. It was on my property. The Torah says, no. You made a fire. You knew that there was going to be ashes. You knew there's going to be sparks. You're responsible for the fire. So the Torah goes through a number of different cases here in the book of Mishpatim, just to make sure that lex talionis, you damaged, you're going to pay compensation, and your compensation is going to come off the top. Meaning, if you have 3 pieces of property, let's say that I have to now go to court, sue you, and I got to get money out of it, and you have 1 house in Beverly Hills, 1 house in Haiti, and 1 house in Gaza. Okay? You have 3 homes. So you say to me, how much do I owe you? I say, you owe me $4,000. Okay, you know what? Why don't you go collect from my house in Gaza? Go find it and collect from it. I say, no. When it comes to damages, I get first choice. I want the Beverly Hills house, and not the whole thing. I don't get the whole the house, but we're going to sell it. I'm going to get paid, and you can get the rest of the money. You could keep the rest of the money. So that's what happens. Okay, that's what happens in damages. Now, what about theft? So now, you know what? People are, whatever reason, they're poor. They did something, whatever it was. Someone stole something from someone else, and they caught the thief. They caught him. And the thing is intact. Meaning, they stole, let's say, I don't know, a bread. Okay? The bread is intact. You have to make restitution double. Meaning, if the bread is worth, let's do something. Let's up the ante. 12 eggs. Okay? 12 eggs. So now you stole $400 worth of eggs. Okay? $400 worth of eggs. You got to pay 400 times 2 is $800 for the dozen eggs. Okay? Why have to pay double? Because the Torah insists, you wanted to damage that fellow for $100, you have to be now out $100. Okay? So it means you took $100 worth, you have to give 100 back to the matter, and then you have to give back. Now if he ate the bread, so you got to pay 100 for the bread, and you have to pay 100 for damages. It's called kafel. This is called double. So you caught the guy, and this is also true if not only if you caught the guy, but let's say, for example, that Helen said to me, Rabbi, I'm leaving town. I'd like you to. I have this phone. I don't want to take it with me to trip. Can you watch it for me? And I say, yeah, sure, I'll watch it for you. Okay. Helen goes back. I said, oh, I'm so sorry, I lost it. Lost it? Well, I mean, okay, so Helen is a little, how do you lose a phone? I think he has the phone, okay? She then grabs me to court, and she sues me. And she makes me take an oath that I didn't touch the phone. And then, of course, two witnesses come by, my two dear friends over here, and they say, no, he has the phone. And they find the phone in my house. So what do I have to do? How much do I have to pay Helen? 200. I got to give her the amount of the phone, and I have to pay her double for the phone as well. So it works in all cases called kafel. Whatever the phone is worth. How much is the phone worth? I don't know. 800. Not as much as eggs. I'll tell you. I'd rather have the phone than eggs. Okay? Except there was always an exception to the rule. And what was the exception to the rule? The exception to the rule is if you steal a sheep or an ox. Okay? A sheep or a cow. If you steal, now you have to remember when we're talking about over here. We're talking about a society that was heavily agrarian. That means we had a lot of different farmers. And what did you need for farming? How did you plow? And how did you thresh? Through an ox. Clothing was made through how? Through wool from sheep. Okay? So if you went out there and you stole an ox and a cow, and we caught you, and the ox and the cow is in extent, that means it's here, it's intact, how much do you pay? Double. You have to pay for the ox, and you're going to pay for the double for whatever the ox is worth. But here's another rule. And so interesting, and we're going to go into the psychology behind this. What happens now? Listen to this. If a man, if you want to follow along, it's 425, verse number 37. If a man shall steal an ox, or a sheep or goat, okay, one of these three animals, and slaughters or sells it, means he took it and now he changed the composition of what it is. Slaughters it, kills it, or he sells it away to someone else and it's not around. He shall pay, this is what the Torah says, 5 cattle in place of the ox, 5 times instead of the ox, and 4 sheep instead of the sheep. But this is the only case. Only if you stole one of these 3 things. An ox, a sheep, or a goat. Okay. And you had to do away with it. Meaning that when we caught you, we said to you, where's the ox? Look in my freezer. Okay? Because what did I do? I shechted the ox, I slaughtered it, and I turned it into steaks. So now my freezer is full of meat. How much do I have to pay for the ox? 5 times. And if I did the same thing to a sheep, 4 times. Okay? Why? Why is this? Why is this so? Because society needed these things. Think about this for a moment. It's the same thing if I stole your phone today. It's so necessary for you to have the phone for business, whatever it is, that you know what, if I smash your phone, I may have to pay 5 times the price. 10 times. 10 times the price I would have to pay. But here it's only what we call 4 or 5 times. Now, what's the difference? Why not 5 for both, or why not 4 for both? So let's think about this. What do you get out of sheep? Sheep, you get 4 things out of sheep. Well, number 1, you get milk, I guess. It says over there, cheese out of sheep. You get the wool, and you get other lambs. Okay, so you get 4. There's 4 benefits from it. What do you do? What do you do when you have a cow or an ox? You get milk. You get the cheese. You also get the kids, right? But also, besides that, you get threshing and plowing. Okay, so you get 5 benefits. So that's why the Torah says that you should get 4 or 5 times this. Okay, that's kind of the basic ideology. But I just want to bring down what Rashi says. It's so interesting. Okay, so Rashi says this when it comes to stealing of the 4 to 5. Now, those who are studying with me will understand this a little better in the Talmud class, because when we went into the Talmud class, we know that there's different arguments about everything. The time of prayer, the time you go to sleep, what you eat, when you eat, how you go, when you go. There's always going to be arguments. And I'm not talking about Ashkenazi versus Sephardi. This was before then. Okay? Later on, it became Ashkenazi, Sephardi differences. But then, back in the days of the Talmud, it was just literally setting up the law. So listen to this. Now you have to pay 5 ox Omer of Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, why do you pay the 5? For Chas Hamakim al Kavodim Shalbrius. God had pity on the dignity of human beings. What do you mean? What do you mean he had dignity on the... That's why there's a difference between 4 and 5. What do you mean the dignity of human beings? So think about this for a second. He puts himself into the mindset of the thief. He says like this, Shoyer shaholach baraglov, a cow that walked with its legs, v'loy nizbazim by haganif, and the thief was not embarrassed, l'nosei al ksefei, to carry him on his shoulder, mishalim hey, he has to pay 5, because his humiliation was less. No one knows that he's stealing it, right? He's walking with the, even if it's in the middle of the night, he's walking with the thing, and he's walking with the cow, because his humiliation was less than the sheep, because the sheep he had to carry on his shoulder, and it's embarrassing, and it's uncomfortable, so therefore you pay 5 for the ox, and 4 for the sheep. Think about this for a second. Here's a guy, we're making him pay 5 times or 4 times the damage, because, as the Talmud says, he is rooted in evil. Look, the guy took a guy's ox and he shechted it and he sold it or whatever it is. So we're punishing him very severely 4 or 5 times. And here comes Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and says the reason why he has to pay more when he stole an ox, he didn't have that kind of humiliation. He just took the ox, put something around there, like a rope around the neck, and just walked out with it from the barn. The sheep, no, that was different. The sheep he had to put on his shoulder, he had to carry her out, it was humiliating, it was heavy, so he has to pay 4. What kind of person is this? What kind of person? A person that only can imagine, understands, why are you stealing? You're stealing because you need it. Why would a guy steal an ox or a sheep? He's not stealing it because he's a bad guy. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai always looked at the betterment of the person. He guy is stealing because he needs it. Or Nebuch, he didn't have any food, or he was jealous, whatever it is, it wasn't him. And because it wasn't him, the essence of the person is okay. I want to see that he should be compensated, or at least his compensation should be equal to the embarrassment he gets. What kind of a brilliant insight. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was, by the way, one of the great people we learned about when we were doing the ethics of our sages. He was one of the leaders of the whole academy. He lived right after the destruction of the Second Temple, and the whole story where he met Vespasian. But this was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Comes along Reb Meir, a student, and says, well, okay, that's very nice. You're such a nice guy. I'm not such a nice guy. Okay, I'm not such a nice guy. You know why I think there's a difference between the 4 and the 5? I'll tell you why. Come and see how important work is. How important that you should have a job and you should work. Why? An ox that you caused the farmer now that he doesn't have any work. Now he sits at home and he's sitting like idle. He's sitting idle, so you caused him not only the damage of not having the ox, but now he can't work. You're going to pay 5 because you caused him not to work. A sheep, sheep doesn't cause you not to work. Dalit, you have to pay 4. So Reb Meir takes a different approach completely. He looks at the side of the victim. Look at this. The man wants to go to work. He knows what important work is. He's trying to plow his field, and what did you do? You shmo. You took away his ability to work. How strong is it, our ability to work? How much should we? Now, this is not only, if we were real scholars and we wanted to go through the Talmud and look for other quotations of these people, we would see that they had what we would call today in America a Weltanschauung. That's a German word. Germans take a one syllable word and turn it into 8. Okay? Weltanschauung means a worldview. They had a worldview, how they looked at everything through the lenses. Reb Meir, who was a tough guy, because first of all he was married. We mentioned her last night, Bruria. His wife was Bruria. She was something else. She was a Rebbitzin, but She was a scholar in her own right. She argued with him about deep Talmudic thoughts, so he always looked at the world and the value of what we need to bring to the world. What we need to bring to the world. And you have a mission here on the world, and you got to stick to that mission. And everything that takes you away from that mission is encompassed in my philosophy. That's the way he looked at the world. So any issue that came out, it would be like today, for example, we break it down in liberal, conservative. You have on the Supreme Court, you have half conservative, half liberal. What's the difference? It's the way you look at the world. Same thing was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had a worldview that we have an expectation and an obligation and always looking with the right eye. Always look at the right eye about somebody. If you want God to have mercy on you, what do you need to do? You have mercy on others. Exactly. You want God to be compassionate to you, to listen to you. What are you going to do? Listen to others. It's called imitatio Dio. We imitate the Almighty. And so Rashi brings this down, not in the sense of a worldview, but just to show you in one small little world, how the rabbis looked at the world, even in a case of 4 and 5 damages. How would that even play into this? This is how it plays into. I'm telling you, studying Torah, there's nothing like it. There's so much you could glean. I mean, this portion, we kind of rush over. You could spend a lifetime and a half just learning over Mishpatim. Okay. So that's that. So now we know all about damages. So now you're experts and you could go out there and start being a judge. Here's another interesting case. Where's that? Let's pick it over here. Go ahead, please.
Is the ox kosher?
Yes, an ox is kosher. An ox chews its cud and it has split hoofs. Yeah, of course. Ooh, if an ox wouldn't be kosher. No, it's a cow. Usually we eat cows and. Okay. Here we go. Okay. We're going to continue on page 425. 27. Okay? This is chapter 22. Now I want you to put on your best thinking caps for this. Because the Torah is going to writes this law very mysteriously. Look at this. If a thief is discovered while tunneling in, means it's in the middle of the night, and you hear what? You got it, chapter 22?
I think I saw it before here, yeah.
Yeah, you got it? If a guy's tunneling in, okay, and he is struck and dies, now we don't know yet who struck whom and what struck what, but someone struck someone else and he dies, there is no blood guilt on his account. What? What is this talking about? Let's go further. Maybe the next one. If the sun shone upon him, there is blood guilt on his account, he shall make restitution. If he has nothing, he shall be sold for his theft. If the theft shall be found in his possession, whether live or dead, he shall pay double. Okay? But let's go back to verse number 2. If the sun shone upon him, there is blood guilt on his account. What does even that mean? The sun shone upon him. What is this even talking about over here? So we have to come on to, that's why I argue, that there was a group of people living in the Second Temple area that were called the Sadducees. The Sadducees did not believe in any rabbinical Judaism. They didn't believe in the rabbis. Anything that we talked about in the Talmud class, they disagreed on. They didn't believe that in the rabbis making up stories. They didn't believe in the rabbi stories. They believed in what we call sola scriptura. This is not a Jewish saying, by the way. This is a Protestant, by the way. But sola scriptura, only the scriptures. I don't want to hear any other, accommodations or interpretations. Whatever it says here, that's what we do. Now, that's okay if, like, we have a book that had no rules and regulations. If it was just a narrative, okay, sola scriptura. So you read the stories of Abraham and the stories of Isaac and the stories of Jacob and Moses and all that. And but when it comes to legal law, how do you have sola scriptura? So we have to come on to what we call Torah Shebal Peh, the oral tradition. Meaning that Moses, when he called Aaron and says, listen, Aaron, today I'm going to give you a law. I'm going to write it very, very, there's a word I'm thinking of. I beg your pardon? Succinctly, yes. Like very succinctly, but like and you're not going to understand it, but I'll explain it to you. So just to have patience, I'm going to tell you like this: if a thief is discovered while tunneling in, means okay, you're a homeowner and you're sitting at home and you're doing whatever you're doing, smoking a cigar and having a beer in your backyard, whatever you're doing. Okay, I'm not going to ask you what you do. Fine. And all of a sudden, you hear in your basement someone is breaking in. You go down, and you see that there's a thief there, and you kill the thief. You kill the thief. Now the question is, what do we do to the homeowner? What do we do to the homeowner? The answer is nothing. Nothing. Why nothing? Because if you look at the verse, if a thief is discovered while tunneling in, and he is struck, meaning the homeowner goes there and he smashes him and he kills him, and the thief dies, there's no blood guilt on his account. He is bloodless. The thief has basically given up his right. Now, why should that be true? We have these cases here in America, and I'm not sure. It's very difficult if a guy breaks into your house. What you should do, what you shouldn't do. My suggestion is don't try to fight them.
Just kill him.
Just kill him. Yeah. Just kill him. Don't fight him. Just kill him. What?
You have to wait till nighttime.
You have to wait till nighttime while you don't see. Okay, why is this so? Because there's a general rule in the Talmud that a person will stand and fight for his possessions. A person is just not going to sit by like this and let a thief take his possessions out of the house. Now, maybe that's the right thing to do. I'm not saying we could argue this. But generally, people will try to protect their possessions, especially. So if you're going to try to protect your possessions and the thief knows that you are going to stand up against him, means that the thief already has in his mind that if there's a confrontation, there is a good chance that what's going to happen to him? He'll be killed. He's going to be killed. So therefore, the Torah tells you that if a thief tunnels in and you find him in, and the reason why tunneling in and instead of just coming into your house daybreak is because usually at night, you don't see, you don't know what's going on, but then all of a sudden you discover him and you see that this is a person, because we'll get to another case in a moment, and you see that he's coming to, even if he's not coming to kill you, he's coming to steal from you, and you kill him. It's like Abba Hargai. If someone is coming to kill you, kill him first. Okay, kill him first. We have a right to protect our property and our lives. So if someone is going to come to kill you, you don't say to yourself, well, if that's God's plan and the thing is over for me and he's going to kill me. No. Kill him first. Okay, kill him first. Hamed dvarim amurim, in Talmudic language, when is this talked about? If you don't know the thief. Means you don't know who the thief is. He's there, you don't know if he's coming to kill you, he's coming to steal from you, you don't know. So you don't have to wait and ask questions. Don't get on the phone and call the rabbi at 2 a.m. Rabbi Perelmuter, yeah. Okay? There's someone breaking, kill him. That's what I would say. Okay? If you called me at 2 a.m, I don't care who it is, kill him, I don't care. Kill him. You know this? So you don't have to call the rabbi. It's like very religious people. There's a thing called a chassid shoita. Chassid is a pious person. A shaita is a fool. Okay? He sees a woman drowning, but it's not nice to look at her. She's wearing a bikini. So he doesn't look at her. So he calls the rabbi to find her if he should save her from drowning. Shaita! She's drowning. I wouldn't call the rabbi. Trust me, if she was wearing a... Okay, forget it. But that's a chassid shaita. Your house is on fire. On Shabbos, it's prohibited from putting out a fire. So you called the rabbi to find out if you should call the fire department. What?
He wouldn't call it.
That's right. That's what's called a chassid shaita. As a matter of fact, there's a little skit. This is like a little comedy skit that goes around. It's about this Jewish family, is a very Orthodox elderly family, and it's the summer, and they forgot to put the air conditioning on in the house. So they're sitting outside waiting for what we would call a Shabbos Goy. Right? Everyone's familiar with the term Shabbos Goy? Shabbos Goy means you can invite a Gentile to do the work because you can't turn on the air conditioner. But what you can do is you can invite someone in. So they are sitting, and a young African-American guy walks by. They say, excuse me, could you come into the house for a second? And he's like, kind of, You want an African-American guy to come into your house on Shabbos? He's a little hesitant, but they explain the circumstance that they don't use any electricity, they don't use their phone, and it says, and would he be so kind as just to turn on the air conditioner? So he goes, yeah, why not? I go into the house, I turn on the air conditioning, and says, oh, by the way, I'm stealing your television. Who are you going to call, the guy said? You're not calling, it's like, he was just joking around, all of that stuff. That's called a chassid shoite, okay? A dummy, okay? We don't do that. Then there's a case like this. So number one, if someone's tunneling in and you don't know what they're there for, and you take the initiative and you kill them, innocent. Let's go to verse number 2. If the sun shone upon him, but if all of a sudden it's clear to you that he is not coming there for your life, meaning he will not hurt you. Yes, he may be coming to steal, but under no circumstance will he hurt you. Let's go to the next. There is blood guilt on his account. Now give me a case where you know 100% sure that the thief is not there to hurt you. What would it be? Think about it. Come on, put on your Talmud, the caps. Give me a case that you are 100% sure that the thief is not there to hurt you.
A family member.
Thank you. What if it has your father? If your father breaks into your house, you know 100% that your father's not there to kill you. He's not there. He may be there to take some of your stuff. Yes, but he's not there to kill you. Or another family member, a son to a father, a grandfather to a grandson. That's why it says, if the sun shone upon him. What does that mean? What does that term mean? It's so clear to you. Like the sun, like we see each other now, it's so clear to you that he has not come because of any nefarious intentions, you cannot kill him. So you cannot kill your father, because you know that your father, you know what? And if you do, if you say to yourself, no, I don't care, then there's blood on your hands. Because he did not come to kill you, so you have no right. You have to let him take the stuff, whatever it is. You may want to hold him, you can hold him, but you can't kill him. So this is how the Torah wants to teach us this law. Okay? So instead of going like this, it goes like this. Okay? Why? Why? Because it wants you to really pay attention. It wants you, if it gave everything so easy, so it wants you to know that, this is the story with the machteres, this is a story with the tunnel, that if a guy comes into the tunnel, you may kill him. So there's a different law of how, stand up and protect yourself. If he's there for only a matters of money, and he's not there for matters of life, you can't kill him. So we could spend another 2 hours discussing this case and all of the ramifications of this case.
Kill you by mistake.
What?
The person tunneling in could kill you by mistake, even though he says he's not going to.
He could kill you. No, okay. You have to, again, like it said, if the sun shone upon him, that he's not, meaning that he's not going to kill you by mistake. You don't kill him. Now, if you decide to have a struggle with him, and then by mistake he kills you, okay, that's your fault. Because the Torah is telling you, don't struggle with him. He's not there. Let him take whatever it does, and you're best off. And that's generally the best rule of thumb anyways. When are you going to have a struggle with anybody? Whatever they can take, and have a good day. Okay. Now, the Torah is written. We'll do one more, and then then I think enough information for one day, because everything will be on the test next week, by the way. So remember all of these things. 4 or 5, double, killing, damages, money, arms, everything, limbs. Good. Think about that, and then you have to go for lunch after talking about all these gory stuff. Okay, but here's a better one. Dignity, and showing dignity to other people. The Torah demands. Last week we had in the 10 Commandments about parents. Kabed es avicha, honor your parents, show them dignity. Doesn't say love your parents, that's a different story. But honor your parents. People have to show respect and dignity to others. Okay, very nice. So in theory, this is such a nice thought, right? The golden rule. Whatever I don't want you to do to me, don't do to you. Love each other. Kumbaya. We all sit together. We sing a song together. Hinem atova manoyim. How good it is to sit together. But in all reality, what's the truth of the matter is? We don't get it. We don't. Okay? There's jealousy. there's Kian, there's all these little things. Okay? So for most people, we're not going to take advantage of them because, I don't want you to take advantage of me. I'm not going to take advantage of you. Have a good day. But then there are those kind of people in society where no one cares about them. Or they're weak. They're politically weak. They're financially weak. They're all of these things. They're all weak. And when they're weak, who's going to care about these people? The Torah 25 times, or 25 times, talks about the prohibition of oppressing a ger. Now, I use the word ger advisingly, because ger could be interpreted a number of different ways. Convert, foreigner, stranger. 3 different ways. You have to look at the context of it. It doesn't always mean automatically a convert. It could mean a non-convert. What if a guy is a stranger and he's not a Jewish person, but he comes from another country? That you don't have to show him any respect. 24 times in the Torah it says, do not oppress, do not harass, do not hate the stranger, convert. What was the third word I used? Foreigner. Because, and the Torah says to us, why? Because you yourself were foreigners in a foreign land, and you see what happened to you, so you have to rise above. You have to rise above. Though that is counterintuitive. Because if I'm going to take advantage of anybody, or you know what, we all like to form ourselves little clubs. I like to belong to a very, very exclusive club of one. Just me. It's a very tough club to get into. It's me and only me. Because when I'm in the shower, I'm Pavarotti, and I'm this, and so that club, you're not going to, forget about it. I'm in. But we all love to create clubs. What does clubs do? Excludes. It excludes, because not everybody could be in the same club, so it excludes. So we, by nature as human beings, tribalism is a tremendously a powerful force within ourselves. We love to, if you're Jewish, you want to have Jews. If you're a Mason, you're a Mason. If you're a sports fan, a sports fan. Whatever the circumstances are. What by nature happens to the outsider? He gets excluded. And the guy that gets excluded, the person that's excluded, is so easy to be taken advantage of. Here we are, we're strong, we're tough, we have all of these things. And look at this, a widow, an orphan, who protects them? No one protects them. And 25 times. Think about that. Shabbos is said maybe 5 times. That others once. But this, 25 times the Torah tells us over and over and over again, do not oppress someone that is less powerful than you. Foreigner, convert, stranger. So even a stranger comes from a foreign country, doesn't know the language, and believe me, this is my parents. My father hardly knew how to speak English, even though he was living in Canada for 50 years. He still hardly knew how to speak English because he was working in the Jewish community. His whole life he spoke Yiddish, and only Yiddish. Barely. So I knew how it was when he went to a bank, how hard it was for him to communicate. So I could relate that, sometimes I would say, what are you trying to say, Ta? It was so mumbled, jumbled. So the Torah tells us these are people that you need to make an extra effort. And I'm watching you. And the Torah says that if you think by somehow that you are going to take advantage of the widow or the orphan, and you know what, and no one is going to see that, let me tell you what I'm going to do. They're going to cry out to me. Like, for example, you take advantage, a widow comes to you and says, I don't have money, can I borrow $100? And you charge her 100% interest. Even though the bank is charging 8%, you're going to charge 100% interest. She cries out to God. Look at that. You know what? The guy took from me 100% interest. I'm going to hear it, God says. And what I'm going to do is, not only am I going to protect her, but I'm going to kill you, you. And then what's going to happen when you die? What happens to your wife, Shiza? And what happens to your children? Okay? So what did we say? Mida keneged mida, measure for measure, but worse than that. I'll make it worse than that. Because if you take advantage of these people that are now down and out, what I'm going to do is like this. I'm going to take you on a trip. Okay? And you're going to disappear. If you disappear and no one knows where you are, your wife now is in limbo. She can't do anything. She's what we call an aguna. You're not dead, but you're not alive. So she can't remarry. So for the rest of her existence, she's going to be sitting in this position where she's, not only is she a widow, because a regular widow can at least remarry. Your wife is not going to be able to remarry because she's an aguna. That's what I'm going to do to you. First, I'm going to do to you. You're going to disappear. Number two, you mean one thing? I'll get. Number two, your wife is going to become an aguna. She can't do anything. And number three, your children are going to be orphans, but not regular orphans. Because regular orphans, if the father dies, what the courts used to do is they used to appoint what we call an apotropos. They would appoint a manager, and the manager would then come to the father's estate, and he would then manage it. So he would give, like, hey, you know what, if you had minors, they would get like an allowance, $100 a week, $500, whatever the apotropos would. Here, because you're not dead, and because you're not alive, you're in limbo, the courts will not appoint an apotropos, and your estate gets frozen. And no one is able to touch your estate. That's the kind of warning God gives to protect those that we think on the outside are vulnerable. If you think they're vulnerable, let me just tell you, but you know what happens? As much as God warns us, it's always the same thing. We read last week in the Haftorah. What did we read? That God begged everybody that, let the slaves go free. I've begged you. And what did they do? They didn't. They abused them. They oppressed them. The rich, not everybody, but many of them. Again, the Torah has to come back that tells us sheer humanity. Be a mensch. That's what I gave you the Torah for. Red, go ahead, please.
Yeah, that was a beautiful explanation. Rabbi, is it true that the Torah is going beyond Hammurabic law, beyond the Egyptian laws, the Babylonian laws, the Roman laws? It's more extensive, and the way you just explained it goes beyond the simple legal construct that they put together.
I think it's more practical, number one.
Yes.
I think it's much more practical. When we talk about monetary compensation,
yes,
measure for measure makes to me more sense than just going out there poking out someone's eye or something. I will extend it one other step. Prison. We didn't mention anything about this. There's no concept of prison in Judaism. The only time that someone was held against their will in prison was if your case was to be adjudicated. Let's say you were a murderer, and your case is tried, and you were convicted. Capital punishment happened the next day or whatever it is, and 2 days later. That was the only time you were held in a prison for a day or two. There was no such thing as, okay, you stole something, you don't have any money, so we'll put you in prison. Why not? What good are you doing there? If I stole an ox and I don't have restitution, at least become part of the society. So I think that Judaism looked at society as a functioning, practical view. Versus, maybe you take this to extreme, cutting off someone's arm. What good is that? You cut off someone's arm. What did you do? You just made now someone that is now going to be needy to the community. You're going to make someone that now needy. So make a person do something to make them work it off. Give them, because it stems from that idea of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says dignity. So that dignity part of it is allow them to fully function as a good person in society. Give them again the opportunity. Now, if a person was what we call a recalcitrant, that means he was a repeat offender. There were other rules that went outside. I don't want to go into it, especially when we're online. I don't want to tell you, but we'll get to that maybe another time. But I just wanted to give a little bit of tidbit of some of the rules that we talk about mishpatim. Next week we'll change it because we're going to go into house building. Okay? Next week we're going to be into, what do you call that? Construction. Have a wonderful day.